I think that every human being goes through a dark night of the soul, where they go through a challenging situation in life that really makes them rethink themselves completely. They start to move towards more of the alternative therapies because we have been disappointed by the medical field. And I saw the amazing effects that it had on my niece, who is disabled. Unfortunately, she had a really severe case of reaction from a vaccine when she was younger, which obviously in that moment, seeing your little niece suffer, it's really challenging. And we just started questioning everything. And we just went down the alternative healing route, and she started doing kinesiology. She started getting it done. And we just saw the benefits that it had on her.
Welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Graham Wardle, and today I am joined by Paula Sellaro. She's an intuitive healer and kinesiologist who helps people clear emotional blockages and reconnect to their soul's purpose. I first heard about Paula when I was scrolling through Instagram. I saw one of her videos, I found it fascinating, and I decided to book a session with her. After my second session, I knew I had to have her on the podcast. So in this episode, we explore Paula's own journey, her spiritual awakening, her own dark night of the soul, and how her niece's severe adverse reaction to a vaccine sparked her exploration into alternative therapies like kinesiology. We talk about inherited traumas, the power of prayer, overcoming victim consciousness, Paula's relationship with Jesus Christ, and so much more. I'm excited to share this episode with you all, so please join me in welcoming Paula Sellaro to the show. Paula, how are you?
Hi. I'm so good to be here. Thank you so much, Graham.
Awesome. I'm excited to chat with you. I found you on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Instagram.
Yeah, it was on Instagram, and I saw one of your videos, and I was like, who is this woman? And she's doing this muscle testing stuff, and I was like, muscle testing? I've heard of this. This is like David Hawking's power versus force kind of idea, I think. And I was like, wow, like, okay, let me like check this profile out. I'm looking at your work. I'm like, let me just book a session. So I booked a session with you, and I ended up doing 2 sessions with you so far, and they were both very impactful, very transformational, and I was blown away. And I was like, at the end of the second one, I was like, I got to have this woman on my podcast. I got to talk with her more about this. So thank you for being here. I want to start by asking you the name, Equilibrium Intuitive. What does that mean, and where did it come from?
Well, equilibrium means balance and harmony, and ensuring that each individual person experiences that balance and harmony in their life. And the name actually came from my mentor, and I'm sure we'll go into detail a little bit more about him. But he used to say the word equilibrium. This was before I even became a kinesiologist, and it always stuck with me. So when I started studying what I do, which is kinesiology, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to call myself? And sure enough, his name, the name of Equilibrium, and our conversation that we had, I was like, of course, it needs to be Equilibrium.
Okay.
And as I was doing kinesiology, my intuition started to awaken even stronger as we were doing one-on-one sessions. Telepathy started coming through. I could feel that person as if I was that person, and I could sense things that person wasn't consciously aware of, which is why I then included intuitive, because I am intuitively creating balance through equilibrium.
Okay, sweet. All right. Well, that name makes sense now. I love that. That's great. Okay, so talk to me about kinesiology and this idea of the memory of the body, or there's hidden information in the body that's trying to tell us and that you can uncover. What is that all about?
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of muscle memory. You know, we hear it at the gym. We hear it's like, you know, go to the gym, your muscles will remember your body shape when it was at that particular point. But now we know based on science that our consciousness live within our body. Our memories live within our body, in our cells and in our DNA. So the way kinesiology works is it's a modality called muscle testing, right? This is a biofeedback tool to be able to connect with the physical body. However, it's also a way to connect with the subconscious mind, that database of information that person holds. It's like a hard drive in a computer, accessing cells, files and information from the past about yourself, and not only just about yourself, but also about your ancestral line, like your parents, your grandparents, anything that you've inherited from the past. Like, for example, let's say that there is a manifestation of an illness in your family line, like diabetes, for example. Oh, yep, I've got diabetes because my grandfather, my great-grandfather had diabetes. But there is a manifestation point that actually occurred along the track of why that person actually formed diabetes in the first place. And when you find out what the root cause of that is, you can heal that along the line so it stops passing on to you and your children's and your children's children. So it is quite phenomenal when you just look at it, that simple modality of muscle testing, and you're able to access this information.
Wow. Okay. So for people that don't know what a muscle test is, can you explain that, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm doing online sessions, I become the surrogate for the individual person. So I become them, and I'm muscle testing myself with my fingers to see the stress, right? So when you are really stressed, your body weakens, right? As you know, we start to get fatigued, we get pains and aches. So when I ask the body a question, I'm looking for the weak point, because the weak point of the muscle is when it's telling me something. Something is going on. There's something that I need to look in here, right? So I'll give you an example. And obviously, like, for all the skeptics out there, it's a lot challenging to get them to believe it coming from a video like here. But when you see it and you get to touch it yourself and you see your arm weakening based on a question, it's phenomenal. I love it. It's my favorite little party trick. But the way it works is I would muscle test the belly of this muscle. Right? So this is the muscle that I'm asking the questions for.
And for people that are just listening, it's talking on your hand, right? Your thumb?
Yes. Okay. Right underneath your thumb, you're testing this belly of the muscle. So what you do is you create your fingers like this. And Graham, even if you want to give it a go, why not? Like this? So you could be, exactly. So when you're like this, don't push too down, too hard. Just more or so just feel that subtlety. And with the other hand, you're going to weave it through underneath.
Like this?
Yeah. Like this? That's it. It looks like a little bit of a chain, either or, inside or outside. Yeah, that's
doesn't
it.
matter.
Perfect. Okay. So you're going to apply the same pressure. So it's like just pushing up.
Oh, okay.
Right? Now, I want you to say, my name is Graham.
My name is Graham.
And push slightly with the same pressure.
Okay.
Yep. And do you see that's a firm hold?
Yes.
Right? It's a firm hold. It's not unlocking because your body agrees to that statement, right? There's no stress involved.
Okay.
Now I want you to say, my name is Josephine.
My name is Josephine. And then push. Yeah, it gets weaker. Yeah.
It gets weaker. So the body's responding to your stress point, right? So with the work that I do, I am connecting to what is actually stressing that body.
So it's like the truth makes us stronger then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, where did you learn this, and how did you get to be on this path that you're on right now, doing this and teaching people this, or taking people through this understanding?
If we're going to go back in time, I think that every human being goes through a dark night of the soul, where they go through a challenging situation in life that really makes them rethink themselves completely, and they start to move towards more of an alternative therapies because we have been disappointed by the medical field, let's say. And I saw the amazing effects that it had on my niece, who is disabled. Unfortunately, she had a really severe case of reaction from a vaccine when she was younger, which obviously in that moment, seeing your little niece suffer, it's really challenging. And we just started questioning everything. And we just went down the alternative healing route, and she started doing kinesiology. She started getting it done. And we just saw the benefits that it had on her. Her sleep was better. She would not sleep at night at all. We'd have to take her for drives in order for her to sleep. And she finally got to sleep. She was able to go to the bathroom better. She was very backed up, and her intestines just started flowing better. Because she wasn't able to communicate verbally, kinesiology was amazing because it was a tool that was able to communicate to her subconscious parts and find out what emotions she's holding on to and clear her of this emotional stress. Because you can imagine not being able to communicate, not being able to walk or talk or even scratch your face, how irritating that is, not being able to have the world understand you. So it was amazing to see the results in her and her improvements that I wanted to learn this. So I started studying it purely just for my own interest. And sure enough, I fell in love with it. And I knew this is something that is going to be part of my life.
And so with you working with her with kinesiology, there was noticeable improvements in her sort of health and such?
Her health improved dramatically. In terms of her diagnosis, because of the effects, it was too late in that moment because of like being able to walk or communicate was a very challenging part of it. But the damage had already been done. It's like her brain was frying because she was able to walk and talk and, she was crawling, she was meeting her milestones. And then as soon as she had that vaccine, she was having seizures and her brain was frying because of the mercury poisoning that was going into her brain. So the damage was already done at that point.
Right. Wow.
This is why I'm an advocate. Just do your research before you put anything in your body that is not natural.
Oh, we're on the same page on that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And this is what led you down the path of kinesiology and learning about this. And then you mentioned about your mentor. So tell us about your mentor, finding your mentor and what you learned. And I want to hear about prayer too, because I think you mentioned something to me offline about him teaching you about prayer. So share with us.
I would love to. So this journey, the dark night of the soul, like I mentioned, I get a little bit emotional. So I apologize if a tear comes out at some point. I think when you go through that dark night of the soul, your whole reality shifts and what you thought you knew about the world just completely diminishes and you're in search of finding the truth. And I went down the rabbit hole of asking questions, and it was typically around faith as well, because I think when you go through something challenging like this, the closer you get to God, it's like you just want to have a conversation with him. Like, why is this happening? Like, guide us in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can go down that victim road of like, why did you do this to me, God? Like, why is this happening to me? And it's easy to stay there, but you're not responsible to change if you remain in that victim consciousness. So we started realizing that there was a lot of hidden truths about the medical field. There was hidden truths about religions. There was a lot of control and manipulation. And I definitely went through an unlearning process to remember who I actually am and what it actually is that we are living and existing in. So my mentor, we met by chance. Haha, jokes, not really. It was all divinely guided. And he was actually in Greece. So we never met in person yet. But the first time that I met him on Zoom, I started crying because my soul remembered him. And it was like a family reunion, and it was just something that it was an out-of-body experience. And he said to me, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "I don't remember you, but my soul remembers you. I don't know who you are. I can't remember." And he's like, "Don't worry, you will remember soon." And at that point, I was like, "Oh, okay, this guy is weird, but also cool at the same time. Like, I want to know more."
Nice. Okay.
So sure thing. He started teaching me a lot about the truth of who Jesus was. Let's be honest. I brought up Catholic. I'm an Italian family, and it just didn't resonate with me anymore. It's like the Pope didn't resonate with me anymore. The hiding things in the Vatican, the truth, and all of these documents, it didn't resonate with me anymore. The truth should be revealed to everybody. So I was committed to find out more, and a lot of it was very much so in visions and in dreams. I think I mentioned to you that I actually got baptized Orthodox. And that day that I got baptized Orthodox was 7 years ago now. And I remember being immersed in the water. And when I came out, it was like a veil had lifted off my eyes, and I could see, I could hear, I was having visions. I was having dreams. I was very intuitive. I was seeing things, like things that you can't see with your two eyes. And it was the beginning. It was the beginning of who I am today. And it's an amazing journey. I wish more people were able to have this feeling, because it's bloody amazing.
Did it frighten you? Did it startle you to be now witnessing things and seeing things that are beyond the vision of the eyes?
You know what? Funny you ask. It was interesting. I wouldn't say I was scared. I would say sometimes it was challenging, because your brain is trying to make sense of it all. But there was this sense of peace. And when you have that sense of peace, you know that it's coming from God. And you know that it is something far greater. And there was this reassurance that just came over me. It's like, it's okay. Everything is fine. It's like a mother's love just there, just saying, it's okay. You've got this. It's like I had training wheels all over again. And I was, because it's true, but we are a spiritual being going through a physical experience. And that's what we are here to remember, is that we are so much more capable. And everybody has this ability and this gift. Every human being on earth, because we are a spiritual being. It's just the point of unlocking it so you can use it for your benefit and benefit others too.
Amen. Amen. So tell me then, you touched on Jesus and discovering a deeper understanding of, so who is Jesus to you now?
Yeah. Jesus is definitely not the person that is the church portrays. He is not someone who comes down and smites you. He is someone that was a guide and a teacher and a leader, and was a revealer of truth, and liberated those who were indoctrinated and oppressed. And he sacrificed his life to remain in the light of truth. And he was crucified for it. And I think that each of us have Christ within us, because we're doing the exact same thing. And Jesus he is the closest person who lived on earth that was remotely close to God consciousness.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what about prayer? I really wanted to learn more about your not your version, but like your understanding of prayer, your understanding of the power of prayer and how to pray effectively. Can you share with us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my mentor guided me through prayer and helped me understand how to actually pray properly, because we can speak when we pray. However, it's this connection. It's like, how could I explain it in human terms? Okay, so let's say you and I are speaking. I'm just speaking at the camera, but I haven't joined the podcast yet, and I'm just speaking out loud, but I'm not speaking to you. I think I'm communicating to you, but it's not being received. And it's because you need to shift your frequency to a particular state in order to connect through prayer in that way.
Oh.
Yeah. So you need to pray from your heart. You don't pray from your mind.
Yes.
He told me to fast before I prayed. So he said the best time to pray is either in the morning before you've eaten, or at night after you've eaten quite late. And the reason being is because food has the ability to make you tired and fog you up. What you eat, you are. Your gut is your second brain. So if you're eating something that might affect you to connect intuitively through prayer, avoid it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he says avoid alcohol, ensure that your temple is clear, and try and make your temple as light as possible. So avoid eating meat, dense foods, in order for you to go higher and be able to communicate. So I did that. And he also said, which is the most important, is that before you pray, light a candle and look at that candle, get hypnotized by that candle. And the reason being is that it creates this awakening in your pineal gland, when you stare at light, when you stare at a candle, because it's a natural element, a natural form of light. So you just look at that and you just look at your gaze, and then who you want to pray to. So if you want to pray to Jesus, look at an image of Jesus, right, for example, and then put the image away and remember that image in your head. And close your eyes and envision that image, and then start communicating to that image that you see in your mind.
Interesting, but from the heart though, right?
Correct. So the heart, and so when I say mind, I do mean your inner vision.
Okay.
So your inner vision is able to see in here, but your heart sees it's pouring from your heart,
right,
ultimately. Right. It's like the inner vision is the projector of what you're seeing, but your heart is ultimately the correct number to use.
the right phone number.
To make your
dial
call.
It in. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So that's how it ultimately works to pray. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. So for somebody who is struggling with praying and they're stuck in their head with their prayers and they're like, well, I don't know how to pray from my heart. What's your advice, or how do you get people to sink into their heart and kind of tap in and pray and dial the right number?
Make a session with me and I'll help you.
There you go. Book a session with Paula.
No, honestly, I that's one of the things that I really assist my clients with, is unlocking that part of them, because I'm able to find out what is actually blocking them. Sometimes people don't know what's blocking them. How can you connect to something if you're blocked to it? So bringing that conscious awareness to it will help guide you, like a roadmap, basically. But a few techniques, if obviously everybody's in a different climate of their own situation. So if you find it challenging to work with someone that could assist you, I would ultimately say write down on paper everything that you feel is heavy on your heart. Write it all down. Anything that you feel you're carrying or it's been a burden on you, write it down on paper. And once you write it down, you don't need to read it. Just burn that piece of paper, and the smoke that comes from that fire of the ashes, it's a release for you, whatever you're holding on your heart. And that will lighten your heart a lot, to the point where you will be able to then get another piece of paper and write down what you want instead. Yeah. Without stating the negative. It's like, for example, I don't want to fight with my family anymore. I want everyone to just leave me alone, and I just want my own space. No. What you would write instead is, I am grateful for the opportunity to make lasting relationships with the ones that I love. I am grateful that I attract the right people into my life. I am grateful that my health is at its peak. It is writing it as if it's already you, it's already happening. So you are manifesting that in, and that in itself creates this gratitude, and gratitude is what raises your vibration and your frequency. So when you raise your vibration and your frequency, you are able to then connect through prayer in a different way.
Okay, fascinating. And then so for your work, when you work with people, you do the muscle testing to kind of help release those things, similar to what the burning of that piece of paper would be releasing, but you're doing it through the muscles telling you what's going on and where to kind of tune into.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm that extra aid to allow them to turn it into wisdom, right? And get them to also understand that maybe some of the things that you're holding are not even yours. Some of them might be.
Yeah, that was what I thought was fascinating. That was the video that I saw of you when I first found your work. Was I think you were working with a woman, and it was like stuff from not even hers, but it was affecting her. So why is that? Why do we get impacted by other people's emotional blocks or emotions or different things like this, and we take them on like that?
Because we are all one.
Okay. Good answer. All right.
So when we start understanding that we are all one and we are the most important thing to work through, we are the piece of art. We are responsible for ourselves, and we get to choose what we wish and do not want to take on, because only we have authority over our own selves to do that. Now, if I'm going to be technical, yes, I said that we are all one and we are all interconnected. Yeah, we all come from the same source and we're all here to evolve together. This is the collective consciousness. The more we work on ourselves, the more we raise the collective consciousness, regardless whether someone does the work on themselves or not, because we are all one, we are all connected. So in terms of, let's say, inherited traumas, it is all in our DNA. If we're talking science-based, it's all DNA, and it's passed down through generations to generations until someone is ready to become conscious and awaken and heal through these ancestral traumas. Now, if we're going to talk about the soul and the spiritual level, it's a soul contract. That soul has chosen to take this on board, to learn something from it, to transmute it, and to create something better, to help their lineage. They put their hand up and they said, I want to be the one who heals my family line.
What an empowering perspective that is. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And that's something that whenever I hear a new perspective or an idea or something, I always go through this. I can't prove or disprove this, but how does this impact my life, or if I were to adopt this? And what you're saying there about, I put my hand up and I chose to heal this or to bring peace to this area, that's an empowering perspective that I feel doesn't place me in the victimhood, doesn't put me at the disempowerment to my circumstances or the situation at hand. But I know a lot of people, with challenging things that have happened in their family or in their life, that can be a hard pill to swallow, a hard idea to kind of comprehend that I signed up for this. So what do you say to those people that are struggling with this idea of like, wait a second, I signed up for this? This is something that I agreed to? How can that be?
So I understand there can be really challenging scenarios and situations that have occurred. And there is that law of karma as well, whether people believe in it or not. But we are not just living in this one existence. We've lived many lives beforehand. And the concept of the soul needs to go through certain situations in life to clear some things that may have happened in the past. Now, this is an example. Say, for example, there is a person crossing the road and this drunk driver hits this person and kills them on the road. That person dies, and then in the next life, that drunk driver then becomes the one crossing the road and gets hit by another drunk driver. And although it's the hardest pill to swallow, that one too, but it's this law of compassion. It is understanding that we are all going through a human experience. Everyone has their own challenges to bear. You only receive what you are capable of dealing with. And when you realize that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you, you'll start to realize that there is something greater behind your purpose. I mean, every great human being that has lived on earth, that has changed our world, has gone through suffering in some way, shape, or form. And you have two choices in life. You can either choose to remain the victim of what is happening, or you get to rewrite the story and create something out of this to help another person out of this. If I remained in victim consciousness and I hated God and I, just was down in my luck all the time, I wouldn't be here speaking in front of you and helping so many people. I've chose that. That was a choice that I made. Everyone has a choice, free will. So you can stay there in the victim consciousness, but it doesn't feel good to stay there. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Come over here, come higher. It's so much better.
But that requires the choice, and no one can make that for you, right? It has to be the individual that chooses, I'm going to transform. I'm going to transmute this suffering into a gift that I want to give to the world. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paula, for sharing that. Now, I do want to double back to, because you've told me a little bit about this, and I want to share this with everybody on the podcast here. Your enough is enough moment where you said, I'm not doing this anymore, and you decided to change your life, and you had a moment with the previous job that you were in. And can you share that story with everybody? Because I think that's what this podcast is about. The time has come. It's about tuning into what is unfolding in my life right now? And can I be honest and sincere and have the courage to take this step outside my comfort zone, follow my heart? So I know you had that moment in your life, and I'm sure you've had many of them, but there was a big one that put you on this path that you're on now. So can you share that?
Absolutely. So there's two, and I didn't mention the second one, but I will in this podcast because I feel like it's very important to be authentic, even when you are spiritual and you go through challenging moments. It's important to also be authentic and truthful. So I will share that. But the first one, the pinnacle moment, was I was not aware of the mind-body connection at this point. And I was working as a personal assistant for a big CEO company, and the role was very intense, fast-paced, and I basically had no life other than being my boss's PA. And although the salary was amazing and it looked great on paper, I was not happy. Although my family at the time were, what are you doing? Like, you need to stay here. Like, are you silly? Like, you need to buy a property. You need to get married, have kids, go down that down that track, and just didn't feel right. I was actually getting really unwell. I was developing boils on my skin, and that was out of the stress. That's like this internal fire and frustration that was inside me because I wasn't listening to my inner wisdom at the time. I had no idea that we had an inner wisdom. But anyway, so it got to a point where an opportunity came up with my family to go visit my extended family in Italy. And it was the first family holiday that we've ever had together. And it was an opportunity that you just can't say no to. So I said, you know what, I'm going to ask my boss if I can take annual leave. And I said, hey, do you mind if I go away in 3 months' time to Italy, my whole family? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, do you understand that you're my PA? If you're not here, I'm not able to function. And he got really, really angry with me, to the point where I just was shocked that he reacted in that way. And the only smart choice that I could make at that moment was like, you know what? Fair enough. Well, I quit. And it was the most amazing feeling leaving. It's almost like I was holding on to, I was wearing a tight piece of pants and I had to unzip them for the first time in like days. And it was just like this release. I was like, this is good. This is what it feels like to be courageous. And yeah, I was able to go overseas. I met my mentor in Greece as well when I was over there. So it all happened in divine timing, and I'm so grateful that I did that.
Let's take this back then to your second time. So your second time, you said there was 2 times that you had this moment. Can you share with us the second story that you had of this, like, enough is enough?
This happened just recently. So just sexual harassment in the workplace. So where I was hiring my space to seek one-on-one clients, there was a lot of inappropriate comments and behaviors, especially to my own clients, which I found extremely uncomfortable. And I just did not have the tools to deal with something like this. I've never, ever experienced anything like this before. And my whole being was really taking a beating out of this because I felt violated emotionally. And it's really challenging to even talk about, to be honest, because it's still fresh. I had to leave this place and really start from scratch again. And I wasn't able to see my one-on-one clients because I didn't have a space to hire at the time. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I see it in hindsight that, again, it's making me stronger. And as I become who I am supposed to be, it's preparing me for other things that maybe I might need to experience later on down the track. Hopefully not, but you just never know. It's, so it was a challenging time for me.
And so that was a moment for you for laying a boundary again, another boundary of like, I won't accept this and this is not okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about boundaries and the importance of that warrior spirit to stand up for yourself or to stand up for what's true and what's right?
Yeah. So the importance of knowing that this is not okay. This form of behavior is not okay. And I understand now, being the victim, how challenging it is to stand up for yourself. I get it. And I empathize with people who have gone through something similar because you don't know what the domino effect will be. I was so empathetic that I was more worried about the chaos it was going to create for their families his family. That was my concern, is like protecting his family despite of what was occurring. And that was hard because I knew that as soon as this opens up, that it would, I was scared of the repercussions that was going to happen and what was going to occur. And I knew it was not my fault. I knew it, but I still felt responsible in protecting other people in the interim.
When you say protecting, who are you protecting?
I felt like I was protecting his family from being hurt once they found out the truth.
But that by standing up and laying a boundary, you were protecting those he might also be harassing or
Absolutely.
abusing.
So it was like a double-edged sword. It was challenging because I felt responsible in both ends of the spectrum. And I was put between a rock and a hard place at that moment in time. And I remember using this really powerful tool. It was because my ego was in the way. My ego was in the way. I wasn't sure what to do. Intuition switches off when the ego is full front and center. So I did this special prayer that I do when I'm stuck. And before I go to bed at night, I pray to God and I say, God, if A is the right choice for me to make, like if I confront this, is it going to be the right choice? Show me fire if it's the right choice for me to make, and show me water if it's not the right choice for me to make.
In your dream?
Yeah, in my dream.
Yeah.
So when you're sleeping, your ego is switched off and your intuition has the opportunity to start communicating to you. I made the decision to confront his wife and tell her what had happened. And sure enough, she was not surprised. She was more surprised at other things like the grooming. So he was saying, don't worry about paying rent for this month. I'll sort it out. A lot of the grooming started happening and I had told her about it and she was more disappointed at that rather than the sexual harassment. So it was very challenging and tough. The most challenging thing is that before this even happened, we had deposited to organize a retreat for my clients to go away, and she was included in this. And he was there, and he had said really inappropriate comments to my clients at the retreat, and that was the last straw for me, where I felt like, no, now, like if it's me, I can deal with it. But if you then go and say something inappropriate to my clients, now this is another end of the spectrum. This is personal now. So I had to make that really challenging decision to just leave. And I was going to go down the legal route, but God was telling me no. Because like, don't focus your energy into that. Focus your energy in creating what I'm here for you to do, not this. So I made that decision.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I've, in my own life, I have a little history of abuse, not obviously in the same situation that you were in, but I know how important it is to reclaim your power in those dynamics where there is, especially sexual too. Sexual thing is a whole other bag of worms. And for people who haven't experienced that, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around, but it does have a significant impact. And it's from my own experience, it can cause you so many issues in other areas of your life if you don't have that sort of protection and honoring of that and that dynamic. And if someone is abusing that, or there's physical abuse, or in your case, the harassment or the grooming, it's like it needs to be stopped and it needs to be corrected. And I think also getting over that sort of like, oh, what's the implications for him and the family? But it's also like, well, what about the other people that he might hurt or that he might go further with? So it needs to be, it's difficult, but that's what needs to be done and needs to be spoken up about and talked about. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
It was very
switch
raw.
Gears. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability. I've heard this, and I don't know where the study came from, but it was like the highest vibration is authenticity, is that sort of like raw integrity of this is who I am, this is what I'm going through. Yeah. And that's my highest value is integrity and authenticity. It's because if it's not that, then everything else you build on your life doesn't have a firm foundation. So integrity and honesty and authenticity, that's the foundation that we build everything in our life upon. And sometimes it's really difficult, the fear of judgment or, breakup of causing pain to the family. Like you said, you don't know what's going to happen. But ultimately, if you can't be honest and authentic with yourself, then no matter what you build on your life, it's not on that firm foundation.
It's like sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is call people out on their bullshit. So that way they can actually grow and learn from that experience. And that's something that I learned even where I am today in this position. Each individual still goes through their challenging moments. And that was one of them. And it is true. It's to help them evolve.
Yeah, and to do your part. And then, like you said, in your prayer to God, it was like, and move on and create. You're not going to sit there and, chase them with a stick or with the law. Maybe for some people, that was what they would feel called to do. Maybe, God would say, or they would feel called, no, I have to pursue legal action. This is what I'm feeling called to do, even though it's uncomfortable, even though I'm feeling this is really hard for me. I always think you tune in and listen. Where are you being called? Because that is ultimately, I've never listened to that call and been like, oh man, what a waste. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so true. It's like literally when I left, and I knew this was amazing. I knew that this was the right thing for me to do. But the moment that I left there, I actually got a call from in Sydney, Australia. It's Channel 7 Sunrise. It's a morning show. And I got a call from them just out of the blue. Once I left that place, it's like I closed one door and then another door opened, many doors opened. And it's just like what is waiting for you on the other side is so much greater than you could possibly imagine. So I was on live television for the first time ever, being broadcasted to whole of Australia, talking about kinesiology. So God knew what he was doing.
Awesome. Well, that's a great segue into what I wanted to ask you next, which is your golden ticket. I call it the golden ticket. It's effectively why you do what you do. What's the moment where you're like, man, I love my passion. I love my work. I love serving others. What is that moment for you? What does that look like?
When I see someone's eyes awaken, like I just see they remember who they are. And I can see it in their eyes. And it is just something that money cannot buy. You've just been part of helping this person realize who they actually are and what they're capable of. That make me cry, Graham.
Yeah, well, I'm crying a bit too. That's why I asked the questions, because to me, that's beyond money. It's beyond any sort of like accolade or something you can hang on your wall. It's to touch the human spirit and to come back home. To come back home to who and what you are and the beauty of sacredness of life. It's like, what better gifts can you witness than to do your part and share that and have somebody else remember? And that's what I love about filmmaking and the work that I do. It's like, we share that in common, is that golden ticket is just such a beautiful thing. And it's so inspiring and there's nothing better. To me, it's like the sweetest. Mwah.
French kiss. I mean, chef's kiss, not French kiss.
Yeah, same thing, French kiss. It's a mwah.
Oh, goodness me.
So my next question for you, Paula, is I always like to ask people about guidance in their life, how they feel guidance, how they experience guidance. I interviewed different people from different walks of life, spiritual paths, and I'm always curious to hear what someone's experience of guidance is like. Is it, for some people that means the Holy Spirit, other people it's their intuition. How does Paula experience guidance in her life, and what does it feel like in your body?
It's a full body yes. So your whole being lights up, even though you don't understand. Even though it doesn't make sense, logical sense, there's this inner knowing that comes over you when you know it's meant for you or it's the right thing to do. The moment that it's not for you, you're feeling that resistance where your body feels like it's shrinking in. So my guidance is the understanding that we are all connected to God, consciousness, and God will speak to you in the language that makes sense to you. So it's different for everybody. But for me, because I work with the body, I'm able to tune into my own body and feel the changes that occurs depending on the question that I ask.
So it's a whole body experience you shared. And it's, and you said, and then when it's not the right way to go, you get a shrinking feeling.
Yeah.
So is it physically, or you can feel it like energetically tight in your body? What are you saying when you?
I'd say it's both. It's both.
It's a bit of both. Okay.
It's a bit of both. Like I'd say that my muscles start tightening up, and energetically, I feel like my aura is not expanded. I feel like it's closer to my body. And I feel, I'd say, I feel so much resistance, and it's not open.
Yeah.
Best way that I can explain it.
I love, and thank you for sharing that. I, as an actor, I'm always curious about how people experience things. I'm always trying, when I have characters or auditions come across my desk, and I'm trying to learn about who this person is and how they feel things. We all experience and feel emotions slightly differently. And my last question for you, we'll get into that more, but I love asking people about guidance, because to me, that's something that I've always curious to learn about. How do other people experience it? Where are they experiencing their body? Is it something, Dr. DeMartini, who I was talking to on my last episode there, one of my previous episodes, he was talking about the brain states and how these brain states are so linked to this state of guidance and awareness from his understanding, from his experience and his knowledge. So it's so fascinating to hear people talk about this. So for you, it's this whole body knowing, it's a shrinking or an energetic tightening. And then also when you feel in tune, it's probably like an opening feeling, or you said full body yes was your words, right?
Yes, a full body yes. Like I just feel right. Like I just feel excited about it. Like perfect example, I went to go see this dingy old property that looks just horrible and just not right. Like as soon as you walk in there, you'd be like, ugh. But I went in there and it was a full body yes. It's like, yes, this is it. So my eyes didn't understand it, but my whole body just said, yes, this is it. Go for it. And I was like, all right, I'll trust you. You've never been wrong.
Yeah. Yes. Amen to that. Amen to that. I love that. And that's something in my life too. It's a bit of a struggle sometimes, or at least I have struggled with it quite a bit in the past, where my mind will be like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But the full body, the intuition, the guidance is being like, yep, this is right. I'm like, what? How does that? Okay. And it's never led me down the wrong path. I've never gone down that path and then been like, oh man, that was totally wrong. It's always, and now I see, I was led down that because I needed to see this. And there's this next step. Fantastic. Paula, are you still there? Okay. I was just going to say, what is next for you? You're doing these one-on-one coachings for people. Do you have workshops, or what are you putting out into the world right now that people can tune into and listen and learn from you more about?
Yeah. So, in-person sessions, I have them with anybody that's in Sydney, Australia, and anybody who loves to travel and come to visit Sydney, Australia, like Graham. And I'm online as well. So I do Zoom sessions online for international clients that want to just check in and work with me. It's amazing online because not many people understand the concept of how does online work. And I explained that online is like, you've got a Wi-Fi router in your home. Nothing's connected by a cord. However, whatever's being broadcasted on that Wi-Fi is being sent over to mobile phone devices in the household, but you're not remotely connected. You're not in front of each other. And that's exactly the same thing. Energy doesn't lie. It can be felt anywhere at any time. And there is no such thing as time. Everything is an illusion. So you're in the past and I'm in the future, but yet everything is happening in the now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, I don't know if I mentioned this, you're in Australia. You've mentioned that a few times, but yeah, we're 16 hours difference right now, but we're talking almost in real time. So yeah, so energy works the same way you're saying, is where you can tune in to somebody's energy through your calls and kind of pick up on that Wi-Fi signal.
That's right. So I become the surrogate. It's like I project everything that you're experiencing onto myself so I can feel it for you and I can guide you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I got one more question before I jump to my last one. Then you're in your work, obviously, because of how you do this, you're projecting a lot of your clients, what they're experiencing, onto yourself. So you're taking on a lot. How do you cleanse or clear yourself after a day's worth of work and doing this for multiple people?
So now it becomes very unconscious. Like I just do it unconsciously. I know that it is not mine and it has nothing to do with me and it is not my burden to carry. I'm purely just being the vessel for the healing. But there is this statement that I say if something is quite intense, and I say it like this. And get a pen and paper out, guys, if you want to write this down. So if you're feeling some funk, and going into, and you can feel someone else's energy and it doesn't feel like yours, you can say, thank you for sharing this feeling, but it doesn't belong to me. I release it now and I send it back to source. And you just take a nice big deep breath in through the nose and an exhale out. And then you say, I call back all of my energy and all of my power back to me now. And then instantly you just feel that shift.
Beautiful, Paula. Thank you for sharing that. My last question of the podcast is my favorite one. I love to ask people this question. It goes like this. I came up with it on set one day. We were bored sitting around waiting for them to set up the lights. And this question popped into my head and I thought it was really interesting. And so I walked around and I started talking to people and asking them, and their answers were all very unique. So it's a fun one. It goes like this. Paula, if you had on your wall a magic painting, and anytime you looked at this magic painting, you could feel any feeling you wanted to feel to any degree that you'd want to feel it, what feeling would you choose and what would be in your painting to represent that?
Freedom. And that would be just a bird, an eagle, just in the sky, just flying, because an eagle sees the highest point of everything and has the highest awareness of every other flying bird, and it's free.
Beautiful. And for freedom, what does freedom feel like for Paula? Where do you feel it in your body? If you were to try to teach somebody what this feels like, who had never kind of felt it the way you feel it, how would you explain it to them?
Freedom in my body just feels true authenticity, freedom of being who you are, freedom of speaking your truth, freedom of being seen and heard and felt, freedom of being able to think, freedom of being able to choose, freedom of what was rightfully ours that God has given us, the freedom.
Beautiful. And you feel it in your chest, you feel it in your shoulders.
I feel it in my chest.
Entire being?
I feel it more in my heart and in my throat. And it's all about connecting to my soul, the freedom of connecting to my soul and projecting it out into the world.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I have a little eagle. It's my favorite little, you can see that here, eagle.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of the eagle and as well. So I resonate with that quite a bit. And I lived on Vancouver Island at a place called Eagle Crest. And there was multiple eagles always hanging out on the beach. And so I resonate with that quite a bit, that feeling of freedom. And thank you for sharing that too, about the freedom to be yourself, to be authentic and to speak your truth, to speak the truth into the world. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Paula, for being on the podcast and sharing all that you did. And is there any message or any thing that you want to mention that we didn't quite get to that you wanted to share with everybody before we wrap up?
Just thank you, Graham, yourself, for this amazing opportunity to be able to share this information with those that watch you and love you. And I'm just honored to be a part of this amazing journey. And I'm excited to see where it all unfolds. And I hope that what I have said and shared today enlightens many other souls. So thank you.
Awesome, Paula. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to be doing an after party with Paula. So thank you for being a part of that as well. So if you're interested in being a part of the after party with Paula and you want to ask her a question, we're going to be doing that very shortly. You can find that information on timehascome.com. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. And thanks again, Paula, for being on the show.
Bye, everyone.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this episode all the way to the end. If you're a member on timehascome.com, you'll be joining us for the after party with Paula Sellaro. Paula, thank you so much for being on the show. I look forward to chatting with you again on the after party. If you head on over to timehascome.com, you can join up and you'll see a little tab for after parties. You can click that and make sure you're signed up and ready to go to continue this conversation and ask a question that you might have. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope you are too. I want to leave you with something else before you go. And that's instead of a reflection question, a little bit of a challenge, something you can take home and think about for the rest of your day or going forward in your life. Paula shared a story about asking for guidance, saying a prayer before she went to bed, and asking God, hey, if I'm supposed to go left, show me fire. And if I'm supposed to go right in this area of my life, show me water. I like that idea, so I'm going to be trying it out. I have a dream journal beside my bed. It really helps to have a notebook that you can just roll over and start writing what you were dreaming about, because often the dreams just kind of fall away as soon as you wake up. But if you have a dream journal beside your bed and you make a habit out of just writing out anything that you remember, you'll start to remember more of your dreams. And then you can use your dreams to get symbols and guidance from above when you're faced with a challenging situation. So if that sounds interesting to you, please share your experience, go with it, see what happens, and then write in the comments below if it worked for you. What did you see in your dream? Did that help you navigating a certain challenge or a choice in your life? I'd love to read your comments and your experiences. I also have to say a comment about scammers, because I always have to do this. There might be somebody new watching who hasn't heard me say this yet. So watch out for scammers. If someone is talking to you and they're pretending to be me, they're a scammer. If there's someone talking to you that has my photo, my name, it's a scammer, okay? Just always assume it's a scammer. I hate to say it over and over again, but they're out there and they're really making people's lives miserable. So please be aware of that and keep an eye out for those people pretending to be me. All right, that's it about scammers. I hope to see you at the after party on timehascome.com with Paula Sellaro. All the best, my friends, and I'll see you next time.